I was outraged and saddened by the enormous loss of life yesterday in the hospital in Gaza. Based on the information we have seen to date, it appears the result of an errant rocket fired by a terrorist group in Gaza.
So that's what Israel's saying as well, and the president says it, the National Security Council says it, but still we have these protests all over the Arab world today.
And they will get worse as time goes on. This is exactly the kind of breeding ground for terrorism and extremism. You know, you have a long-running battle here with so many dead civilians. The Israelis on their side, the worst incident of violence since the Holocaust, horrible rapes and mutilations and babies killed and 200 kidnapped, whatever, 300. It is a situation where it's just going to go downhill. I don't see a way out. The Israelis going into those tunnels, what happens to the hostages when they do go into those tunnels? What happens, you know, a couple of times in 2014, there were 65 Israeli soldiers killed in the first couple of days of that incursion into Gaza. In 2006, I think it was, you had 75 Israeli soldiers killed. It's going to be carnage. It's going to be mass, horrible violence on a level that is almost unbelievable. And to watch, you know, the death of hope is very, very disheartening. In
an area that's used to that, but maybe at a different level now than we've seen in some time. Just to lean back on your experience for so many years of being in that region, I think we have some pictures of your work over there. I know you interviewed everybody over the years, even Yasser Arafat even. But this time it seems, as Geraldo years ago in the Middle East, this time it seems like it's different. Like it's up a level. I mean, would you compare then to now? I mean, you have the perspective to look back in time.
I mean, this goes even back before I started my career in the Middle East at the Yom Kippur War in 1973, 50 years ago. It goes back to before the Roman era, the Crusades in the Middle Ages. This is the location of all the unholy wars. Yeah. And every time you get your hopes up, every time you think that something good is going to happen, there'll be a rapprochement. You know, there'll be two states living side by side in peace. It never happened. What happened to that? What happened to the two-state solution? Nobody even talks about it.
Right, the president
anymore.
mentioned it briefly today, which I thought was interesting in his speech, but you're right, the idea of it actually happening seems to be not only on the back burner, but again, not really in the conversation anymore.
I think that if the pessimists always win in the Middle East. Remember that. Whenever you get your hopes up, you're going to be disappointed. Right now, I am so glad the president went, despite the fact that it dissolved into a photo op. At least he was there to rebut the allegations of the horrifying attack on that hospital. I hope that some people believe it. I don't believe that that will happen. However, I think what is ahead for us is even worse than what you've seen so far. When the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, go into those tunnels, go into that labyrinth, go into that nightmarish scenario with all those hostages, every corner, every tunnel, two people can hold a tunnel against a squad, against a company of special forces. There'll be explosions, and you won't know friend from foe. It will be, I really believe that right now, the worst is still to come.
But there's
I hate to say that.
No other option, though? You think the IDF will move in? I mean, they haven't yet. They've delayed it. Could be a lot of reasons, I suppose, for that. But they haven't yet moved in with this ground offensive everybody was expecting.
Our hope against hope is that there will be negotiations, that there are secret talks going on right now for the release of some of those hostages. But I doubt it, Connell. I really doubt that what you have is in any way a situation that can have a happy ending.
All right, let me talk about the hostages for a moment. That's another subject that the president addressed when he was over there. He had an appearance with Benjamin Netanyahu, and then he made a speech later in the day where he talked about what he's trying to do. And his point is, I'm trying to do everything I can to bring these hostages home. Let's listen to the president talking about hostages, and then as a final point, we'll get into that with Geraldo as well. Here's President Biden once again.
We're working with partners throughout the region, pursuing every avenue to bring home those who are being held captive by Hamas. I can't speak publicly about all the details, but let me assure you, for me, as the American president, there's no higher priority than the release and safe return of all these hostages.
We've heard him say a number of times, I can't speak publicly, almost hinting at the fact that there's more behind the scenes than we know. But I wonder how much they can know, or how much the intelligence of the Israelis even knows about where these people are right now.
I think that when you remember the blood on the hands of those captors, those Hamas captors that took all of these hostages, they know once they are in Israeli hands, they are dead men. They raped, they mutilated, they slaughtered babies, they did things, these horrible crimes, these historically horrible crimes. You know, the blood that is the area of horror. That is the sea of blood. There is no. I'm sorry. I saw your interview with the fellow whose family is being held hostage.
Yeah, his brother-in-law, the guy was on with us last hour. He lives now here in New York. His brother-in-law is being held hostage. So his sister's whole family was a victim of the attack from Hamas October 7th. The sister, thank God, and his two little nieces got away at the end, but his brother-in-law is still being held hostage.
Just think of those little Jewish children in the hands of those anti-Semites, and know the nightmare of those families. It is so painful, and you have to talk clearly about it, be clear-eyed about it. I've gone so many times, my hopes have been raised so many times, only to be dashed. This is a situation that will not end well, Connell.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.